Welcome everybody to our session on the Accelerate Sunshine project. My name is Martin Eibel and I'm a senior project advisor at the European Climate Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency, which is a new agency that was just recently set up on the 1st of April to deliver a number of EU funding programs, including the LIFE program, which is also delivering a new strand, which is called the Clean Energy Transition Strand, which is at the end a follow-up of the Horizon 2020 Energy Efficiency Program. And the Horizon 2020 Energy Efficiency Program is, in fact, the program that has funded this Accelerate Sunshine project. And I'm delighted to welcome my two speakers here who will provide you with an insight on the Accelerate Sunshine project. It is actually the second in line. There was a previous Sunshine project. Now we had Accelerate Sunshine project, both happening in Latvia and trying to accelerate the energy efficiency investment in the residential sector and also in the public sector for public sector buildings. So I'd like to welcome Claudio Rojas, who is the chairman of the board of Ecodoma in Latvia, and also a co-founder of the Funding for Future fund, which is looking at financing energy efficiency investments across Europe, I believe. And with him, there's also Nicolas Stankyov, who, well, I mean, you have to read his vita because it's very long. I can't do all of this, but he's basically also a co-founder of Funding for Future. And he is also leading the Housing and Energy Conservation Bureau in Latvia, who's working for safe, comfortable, and energy efficient housing in Latvia. And without further ado, I think I'd like to give the floor to the two speakers. Just one last word is, if you have questions, please use the chat where you've got the chat function there. Please put your question in there. And we will have a 30 minutes presentation now from the two speakers, and then afterwards around 15 minutes time to answer your questions. So please put them in the chat. And the floor is over to Claudio, I believe, who's starting.
Yeah, I will start. So good afternoon, everyone. So first, I just going to share the presentation with you. Yeah. Yeah, today, I mean, first of all, it's really great to be here and having this possibility to share the results of this project, Accelerate Sunshine. Today, I think Nicolas and I will have this possibility to actually in the next 30 minutes to sum up a little bit the work we did basically since 2015. We had two projects. One was Sunshine and the next one Accelerate Sunshine. The first project, it was focused on multifamily buildings. Indeed, we started in 2015 and ending in 2020. While the Accelerate Sunshine, we started in 2017 and just finished a few weeks ago. Both projects were based on the same concept. We wanted to deliver deep renovation of buildings based on energy performance contracting. Sunshine focusing on multifamily building, and then in Accelerate Sunshine, we extend the scope not only to multifamily building, but also to public buildings. These were two PDA project development assistance projects. So the most important deliverable was to trigger investments in this sector. And another very important aspect of the projects was also to develop a system, an ecosystem where actually the companies which deliver projects using energy performance contracting can actually have access to funding. And for doing this, under the Sunshine project, we established the Latvian Baltic Energy Efficiency Facility, which was basically is a fund to support ESCO companies in delivery deep renovation project. And in Accelerated Sunshine, we try to roll out this scheme and this facility, which now is called the Latvian Building Energy Efficiency Facility. Then, when we started to work with this project, we faced several challenges. Some of them we knew already, some was actually new coming. In these slides, I put the 4 challenges which are certainly the greater effect and affected mostly our work. They're interrelated each other. I mean, without a business case, financing gets very difficult. Subsidies are there trying to help the business case, but they also became sometimes a barrier in third-party financing. Regulatory issue have an effect at all level in when you try to deliver this sort of project, both in the private and the public sector. In the next slides, I want to highlight maybe on the one which had the greater effect on our work. We had a problem, always a problem was linked to the business case and the subsidies which were in the sector and what we wanted to try to do. The specific slides is on the situation regarding the public sector and how municipalities used to do projects in Latvia. In our consortium, we had 4 municipalities engaged in Accelerated Sunshine for Latvian municipalities. And basically, these 4 municipalities, also as the other in Latvia, were used to renovate their building and to implement energy performance, to implement energy efficiency project using subsidy, mostly financed with subsidy in the sector. Before was through the climate, the green investment scheme we had in Latvia, based on the Kyoto Protocol still at the time. Later, this after it stopped, later subsidies were coming financed by the EU structural funds with a substantial support, because these were covering 85% of the project cost, and the remaining 15% had to be financed either with municipal budget, or the municipality could have access to loans from the state treasury. Both these programs were basically, in terms of how structured, were somehow replicated, whereas basically each building was one project, where the municipality first contracted a design company, and then they made a tender based on the design to find a contractor and to implement these projects. With this amount of subsidy which were put in place, what we have seen in the last 10 years was basically a situation where the investment cost substantially increased in Latvia, far above the inflation, the general inflation we have in the country, where 10 years ago we could implement this sort of project with a budget between 120 and 180 euro per square meter, where the last projects are now implemented for budgets over 300 euro per square meter. At the same time, the tariffs in the country, the heat tariffs in the country in the last year have dropped substantially. These I put example from three cities in Latvia, where we see the strong decrease in cost, making the business case weaker compared to the situation with even 10 years ago. This is even more dramatic if you think to the residential sector, where actually to have a strong business case is even more important for motivating homeowner. But also for municipalities, it becomes very important, and also important when in your concept you would like to have third-party financing as part of the project. This was therefore one of the problem which we had. Municipality were used to have subsidy to implement project only if these were available. And if you see, the effect was not actually to provide a strong learning curve in the country. It basically only switch on and off the market without creating this market in which a more functioning market where subsidies could be reduced time by time and replaced with different financial mechanisms, but where actually the economy becomes more and more dependent on subsidies. You see this in the chart. The stop and go programs, when the stop, the number of projects implemented dramatically decrease for then retaking on as soon as a new program is established. We experience this both in the public sector building and the residential sector. And the targets of building which were renovated using this program are far below the needs of the countries. We have, for example, we see here between 700 and 800 buildings renovated under each programs, while there are more than 39,000 buildings in needs in Latvia for renovation. So even a substantial gap between the money which are available from the grant programs and the actual needs in the market for renovation, for building renovation. All of this was also linked to regulatory issue, because when I mean, a subsidy program comes also with a certain level of regulation in place, and that provides also a number of limitations on working with that specific program. So if we look how municipalities were used to work in this program, they had grants which had to be used for this specific program, where energy performance contracting was not really included or thought when the program was designed. They had a standardized application process where they had to use construction contracts tendered, where were based for design, bid, and build, one building approach, so not bundling of building. And the municipalities in 10 years' time got trained on doing project in this way. So they knew how to do one project after one based on this specific approach. While what we wanted to propose, we had a number of barriers as well. If you would like to use an energy performance contracting for deep renovation, becomes also a long-term contract most of the time, then there were certainly not grants available for municipalities. So this was already a first barrier stopping us to really promote this sort of concept. It was actually possible to do longer contract without grants, but then you should have, if you would like to have a contract longer than 5 years, you should start a PPP, a public-private partnership concept following that law. And that is extremely demanding from the overhead cost that you have to do for this process. So if you have projects, municipality, where even the manage maybe to bundle few buildings together, the project is far too small to justify the cost you need to go for a PPP approach, where actually the study that the Minister of Finance will require to municipalities are going to be extremely expensive to even justify the approach. There were not, when we started to work, specific proved contracts or templates to be used for this approach. Of course, there was the interest to work, or the possibility to work off balance sheet for the municipality. It was just starting during our project, this discussion, but this was extremely just coming. And also, to some extent, again, if you have a small project to get that green light, it was some process. If on the other side you have another option easier on which you're trained, very difficult to convince municipality to go in that direction. And indeed, the human factor was also important, because when you have municipal staff and employees, or you have city council, which they see the business as usual approach very easy and straightforward, supported with grants and you're going to propose something different, it's quite difficult to convince them when you are facing these two aspects. And changing the regulatory issue is where we work, and we're still working on it. But of course, to change these sort of things, I mean, days becomes years very quickly. And that is why we have our projects indeed starting in 2015 and going on up to 2020. We, anyway, I think manage, beside this challenging, to achieve a certain number of success in this project. At all level, both in the residential and in the public sector. We'll focus now more in what we achieved in the public sector. So in origin, what we wanted to do, it was really probably even we were maybe too naive and too optimistic in what we wanted to achieve. We wanted to have deep renovation. So we associated this, given the level of investment, to a long-term contract. To make it around 20 years was the line we see in our models. Under this contract, the ESCO would deliver civil engineering and installation work. They will have the operation and maintenance activity linked to an energy efficiency guarantee during the service period of the contract. And on the top of this, we wish to have private capital involved through third-party financing. First of all, through the ESCO, and then refinance it through the Latvian Building Energy Efficiency Facility, which we established in Sunshine. Well, third-party, if we start from the top, third-party finance is the first block in the public sector we had to drop. There's not a way we could compete with 85% grants and with loan from Treasury. These were at condition that no private player could compete, and if those funds were available, a municipality had all the good reason to use them for this project. So that is something we faced and was taken into consideration. But then, if you want to use those grants, then the regulation was linked to the use of a construction contract. And this construction contract in the building construction law is a contract with maximum terms of 5 years. So we had to work within the 5 years period. Longer contract would not be anymore eligible to the grant, and you would have to go through a private partner, public partnership law. So different totally different legal approach. So we took the construction contract. What we did, we modified this contract where we actually added an annex. In this annex, I think we included I think one of the most important elements of energy performance contracting, which is an energy efficiency guarantee. And we included a number of simple operational maintenance activities that the contractor winning the tender should comply for enable him to fulfill the energy efficiency guarantee. The guarantee is a guarantee of this type. Basically, we have a baseline study where we fix from the energy audit carried out in the building, where we know the energy consumption before. We have the project is decided ahead by the municipality, so we know the energy efficiency measure which we implemented. Based on this, we basically set a maximum level of energy consumption allowed in this building under this contract. So if then after project implementation, this level will be exceeded, then the contractor should compensate the municipality. So if savings are missing, this means they should compensate the municipality. While if the performance is reached, the additional savings will stay with the municipality. During these 5 years, in this construction contract, the contractor has to deposit a performance bond, either with an insurance company or in the form of a bank guarantee, and that can be used against default on any contract terms, including the energy efficiency guarantee. So if this will happen, that bond can be used to refund eventually the municipality if the contractor will not directly do so. The contracts in the annex, we included that there will be on a yearly basis an independent measurement and verification done by a third-party consultant, so that there will not be, or there will be at least less discussion in case the savings are missed. If we look what we managed to do using this approach in the public sector, basically we managed to sign 7 contracts. 4 more contracts are in the procurement phase in the municipalities we are discussing. So these are then the energy savings in terms of end user and primary energy savings. In the multifamily building, this it was also a target of the project. So here you can look at the figures, but in this case we use a different energy performance contract. Here we didn't have the constraint of working with the specific subsidy program, which was limited us to the 5 years, or with the public and private partnership if we want to do longer. With multifamily buildings is a private-to-private business, so they are privately owned building, doing contracts with ESCOs. So this we're talking about 20 years contracts in the multifamily for multifamily buildings. This we continue basically what we did in Sunshine, adding more contracts. In the last line, we also, beside the 4 municipalities where the 7 projects above and were signed, we engage with more municipalities in Latvia, where actually we have more or less directly triggered 19 projects in additional projects in Latvia. This, Nicholas, maybe I think, as I mentioned before, one extremely important aspect of the project, I think, was on financing and the financial model we introduced in the market. So I will leave the floor to you for this last slides.
So yeah, I think thank you very much, Claudio, and thank you very much also all these years how we got to build this financing model, which today is a standard. And our basic thinking has been that why isn't energy treated the same everywhere? We don't have, for instance, German 95 petrol or French gas. There's just gas or 95. So we feel that the same thing should be done with energy savings, and the place to start is with the financing, and that the financing should be based on standards. And I'll walk you through probably what's the most complicated slide we have. Thank you, Claudio, which basically describes how any building owner, be it public or private, would actually see a renovation under the LABIF model. And so if you look at this, the model on the left-hand side, we have the building owner on the left, the service provider. I prefer service provider to ESCO because I think there are several types of companies that could provide these same services, and a commercial bank on the right. And then on the second level, we have in bright orange, BEEF, Building Energy Efficiency Facility, more than 2 years. I like to say 20 to 50 years if necessary. On the left-hand side, you have the Development Bank Sustainable Funds, which of course is one of the ways that you can get financing. We today have financing from the European Bank for Construction Development, from private sector financiers, funds, as well as other development banks. The building owner, what the building owner wants is basically a safe journey from saying, okay, let's renovate until it's actually finished and beyond. the real value in a building renovation is not just the renovation itself, it's also the services provided by the service company for the next, in our case, we say at least 20 years, and for public buildings, I would say 20 to 50 years. To make sure that the service company is providing the very best service, we ask that they get their own funding, so that they know best how to manage that risk. So what happens is the building owner makes a contract with the service provider, who then will do the renovation. Before he can do that renovation, based on standards that we have provided them, he will then turn to his bank and say, hey, I'm going to do a standardized renovation on the basis of the BEEF guidelines. Here are the guidelines. And if I meet these guidelines after one season, they will finance long-term the services that I will be providing to the owner. So we, the BEEF, are taking the payment risk. We are servicing and financing the building owner. The commercial bank is taking a business risk with their business client, which they know, which they should be able best to evaluate the risk of. We are financing the building owner and his payment risk. As a result of that, the bank can offer a better rate to the service provider that they know, and we can provide a rate based solely on the payment risk of these owners. In Latvia, for instance, before recovery, there is less than 3% default on utility bills. So it's a very low risk. In the cases of the buildings that we have already forfeited, we have not had any defaults. Payments are made within 30 days for 95% of residents, and 5% of residents make payments within 60 days. So this has created a model with a very low risk, and with risks that are clearly identifiable, and we identify who can manage that risk. This model then allows to standardize how the owner works, how the service provider works, how our institutional investors work, and how we report back both to institutional investors, service providers, and building owners. The whole thing delivered on a digital platform so as to have lower costs of transactions. I'll go on to the next slide and explain how what we've achieved has worked. Claudio, thank you. So on the next slide, that was the plan, was this particular structure, and we have achieved quite a few things over the years. We've had very strong support with a number of champions within the government, within certain entities such as the district heating company in Salaspils, such as the Riga Energy Agency. And however, it has been slow, and we'll come to that afterwards. But what we have achieved is that today there has been cooperation between JASPERS, ministries, industry associations, and entrepreneurs. Today, there is an off-balance sheet energy performance contract for the public sector that is considered to be master neutral. Altum has introduced a 20-year debt instrument. This is a result of all the efforts you see on the right: meetings with ministers, meetings with government staff and state secretaries. But there's more to do. We need to see guidelines for the public sector. We need to see modification of the law on energy. We need the service tenor to be, as I say, 20 to 50, 60 years for public buildings. We need to define better what are the renovations so that they're deep, meaning that they're deep energy efficiency as a priority renovations, but that we deliver more safety, more health, especially now with the issues of COVID. Finally, carbon pricing. There is none of it. We need to balance the other side. We need to help people with procurement. And of course, we need to make sure that maintenance is actually followed. Last slide, please. As Martin mentioned, my background it's quite extensive. I paid for my education, university education, by selling computer systems. And what I discovered is, until the boss had a computer on his desk, nobody in the company followed. So as President Obama says, and that's why I'm taking that, it has to be the head, the prime minister, the president, who say upgrading energy performance of buildings is one of the fastest, most effective ways to reduce energy costs, cut pollution, and create jobs in the construction and energy sectors. We need that. Until we have that, we're going to have a Treasury Department that says, hey, it doesn't really matter, use our money. Or we'll have district heating companies who will resist. Imagine our buildings save over 50%. Imagine if the whole of the building sector starts to reduce its energy and consumption by 50%. Furthermore, the public sector itself was supposed to be investing 3% per year of its building stock in energy efficiency. They haven't done it. So there's a huge backlog. And what we really need is leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claudio and Nicolas, for the presentation. Thank you very much as well to sticking to the time. It allows us for another 10 minutes of questions from the audience. I think it's a super interesting case study, the Sunshine and the Accelerate Sunshine projects, because as across Europe, we do have the European targets, and as you know, they are getting by the day more ambitious. As you know, the European Commission is talking about 55% reduction of greenhouse gas now by 2030. We want a full decarbonization by 2050. So there's very highly ambitious targets, and we do have legislation in place. And there is, as you probably also have heard in the morning, there is the revision of the Energy Efficiency Directive and the Energy Performance of Buildings Directives going on, expected for the summer now. So that will probably also try to catch up with the latest political developments. But on the other hand side, these local, if you like, or in this case of Accelerate Sunshine and Sunshine national case studies, is extremely important to point out the deficits, because you know, the projects want to achieve quite a lot, and they have to face a lot of challenges and bottlenecks. And whilst you know, the classic project story is never linear, but it's rather like a maze. They managed to get a lot of things out of the project. Not only that they did refurbishment of buildings in the public sector, also in the residential sector, which is even more challenging. But they also set up a financial instrument, which is in principle very interesting, also in terms of leveraging in private investments, which is what also our Director General from DG Energy already said this morning, Dieter Juhl Jorgensen, that we need to leverage in private investments. So these instruments are in place, which is super. I just want to point out, whilst Claudio and Nicolas also pointed out a lot of challenges, the projects did actually achieve a lot. But this Covenant of Mayors Investment Forum is also there to learn from these challenges and also inform policy making, basically. Good. I want to now open the floor to questions, and during my elaboration, I see there's a question from Lowry Sue. What type of ventilation system, central apartment-based, room-based, is being built, renovated in multi-apartment buildings when deep renovation is carried out? Maybe if I can give that to Claudio or Nicolas, you can see also in the chat the question, I guess. Yeah, maybe you can take that one, and maybe to take the second part as well. And other question, what is the maximum maturity of the loan, which is provided for the apartment building, apartment association? Maybe Claudio, Nicolas, if you can just very briefly, please, elaborate this.
So regarding the ventilation system, we have tried a number of options. We tried a balanced system, so basically a mechanical ventilation system with heat recovery, and this installed retrofitted in the building during the deep renovation. We had mixed results with this solution in terms of savings achieved. From the ventilation point of view, the machines are working, but making these buildings, the specific buildings we have, we were using airtight is not that that easy, and so we have then in the next buildings we've been moving more towards full decentralized system, so with smaller units which are installed on the different rooms in the apartment. And in some cases, we actually just, depending, of course, from case to case, we have also only natural ventilation, where basically we have air vents in windows, and we keep the natural ventilation system. So we have tried the three ranges. It depends a little bit, you have to look a little bit at the business case, what are the cost of energy to see how far you can go and take care of the ventilation system. Of course, even in the case of the natural ventilation, you must ensure the air exchanges comply with current norms. Regarding yeah, Nicholas?
Yeah, so I was going to say, regarding the tenor, first of all, it's not a loan, it's on-bill payment. So we do on-bill financing. And that's a very important difference because we do not want to burden owners. As I said in our slides, we are actually in the business of energy, not in the business of we help with the financing, but it's really energy that we're buying. And therefore, just like any utility, we simply give a bill. And for public sector, we don't think that it should be assets match liabilities. So for instance, if we're going to be renovating a national theater or a historic opera building, obviously this building is going to be around for a long time, and therefore we should not be bound by the idea of 12 years, 7 years, or even 20 years. It should be along the life of the building itself. Thank you.
Maybe if I can complement. If I can compliment you on this question, yes, totally right. Is on-bill financing. Then the terms is the terms of the energy performance contract, which are now 20 years. Then if you look from the ESCO's perspective, then ESCOs are taking short-term capital during the construction phase, and that is maybe 1 year. What we have seen today, I mean, one of the ESCO did it 100% with equity for the short term, and then is going to refinance after with LABIF. Otherwise, there is a possibility to discuss with your bank to have this working capital for the short term, from the short term time, and then indeed this is going on LABIF and on bills on the residents. Otherwise, if they don't, they don't use ESCO today, the option banks will go up to 15 years for one loan, which is strictly related to the energy efficiency, and 10 years for financing other measures which are not strictly linked to energy efficiency. Or, as was mentioned in our slides, Altum, which is the Latvian state-owned financial institution, is an instrument where, for specific case, they will provide loans for 20 years.
And actually, that's a very good example of.
Now we lost Nicholas, right in the middle of the sentence of the good example. Nicholas, can you repeat what is a good example? We didn't catch that sentence.
What Claudio just said, that Altum is offering the 20-year package and the earlier longer tenor. This does not exist in the rest of Europe. And the reason it exists is because there is LABIF, there's an market operator that has put a stake in the ground saying 20 years is the minimum. As a result, Altum said 20 years is the minimum, and as a result, the banks have followed, and they go up to 15 years. But in the case of banks, of course, these are loans. It's the banks generally extremely sensitive or nervous about putting their foot in the energy efficiency sector unless they have a backing, Cosmos or EBRD, etc.
Okay.
I see. Mr. Pernetta.
Yes, Robert Pernetta, he wrote a question. How do you manage guaranteed energy savings in a multi-apartment building with different independent energy users? Well, I was saying before that the residential sector is definitely more challenging in terms of the ownership structure than public buildings. So who would like to take the question?
I can.
I'll let Claudio, because I'm not sure I can answer it. I don't understand it. Sorry, Robert.
Yeah, I mean, well, the answer is simple, but not maybe so immediate to explain. They are not so independent in Latvia, the energy user. Well, they have a centralized heating system. Meterings in these buildings occur only in one point at the substation. So the guarantee that is given on the total energy consumption of the buildings. When the ESCO does the project, the thermostatic valves which are installed on the radiator is one of the measures which is implemented. They are limited to a maximum temperature. So the guarantee is measured at that maximum temperature which is allowed to be kept in the building. Then yes, each flat owner might select a lower temperature if they would like, but not a higher temperature. So the ESCO can guarantee that level of savings at that maximum temperature. And that is what is then monitored, is then during the measurement and verification is done on a yearly basis. And then the calculation on the guarantee are done at that moment, assuming, knowing that the maximum temperature is not be exceeded. If building can exceed the temperature, there's a problem with the ESCO that has been doing, and he has to review the settings of the thermostatic valves and to check why someone can keep higher temperature than agreed.
Good. We are almost running out of time. Just one, maybe if I can ask one last question to the two guys of you. You mentioned your financial instrument, the Building Energy Efficiency Fund, and you already have proven that it can work in Latvia. How replicable is it across Europe? Can you just say in 1-2 sentences how replicable is it?
We're replicating at the moment in 5 countries with various, of course, the same type of obstacles. We've actually created bull beef in Bulgaria, and we're creating Iberian beef in Spain at the moment. What we have found, and we can provide that analysis to anybody who wants, is the regulatory framework is very, very convergent, so that the hardware, the software, and the documentation that we have now developed can be rolled out across. And our offer is actually to support local partners to do it themselves. We work with that.
Super. So
and we actually have financing. We have financing available in 5 countries at the moment: Austria, Spain, and so on. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, if anybody of you in the audience is interested to start working on rolling out such a model or looking more in detail into it, then you have here your 2 contact persons, Claudio Rojas and Niklas Stankiov, who will be happy to talk you a bit more into detail of this financial instrument. We are reaching the end of the session. I just want to make a few points. So first of all, if you're more interested in the live clean energy transition sub-program, which is the upcoming funding program for such activities like Accelerate Sunshine, or a lot of projects you are seeing in this Covenant of Mayors Investment Forum, then please join our info session, which is tomorrow morning, if I remember rightly. You will see it in the agenda. We also have a stand in the virtual fair, so you can find us there, the live Cinea live stand, and there will be colleagues who can also answer your questions. Don't forget the networking part, which if you have logged on, you'll find in your dashboard the networking activities. It's extremely useful, and it's really one of the essential features of the Covenant of Mayors Investment Forum, that you take the opportunity to connect with other interesting participants. As far as I know, we have over 900 registered participants, so that's actually quite a lot of intellectual capacity there, which you can tap into potentially. And then finally, the next session start at 3 o'clock sharp. The next one here in this strand is the Bundle Up project from Portugal, which is about refurbishing of public buildings and lighting. So you're welcome to join this one or move to any other session starting at 3 o'clock. And finally, I just say a big thank you to Claudio and Nicolas for presenting the Accelerate Sunshine project. It was a pleasure again to see you and to hear your story, your project story, which I think at the end is quite a success considering the effort put in, but also the outcomes at the end. Even if we you know, haven't achieved the decarbonization in Latvia yet, but I mean that's really for the long term, and it remains still a lot to do, which is also nice because it will keep us busy. But we are hoping that your projects will really have helped to make a big step towards towards these European energy and climate targets. Thank you very much, and thanks to the audience for listening in. And hope to see you later at 3 o'clock. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.